Well, hey everybody. Fantasy booking of the WCW Invasion Angle, Part 3. And when I last left off, and laughed apparently, we were at the end of Survivor Series, and Team WWF, WCW had just beaten Team NWO. when Goldberg had been able to, beat Hogan once Ric Flair came in. So, basically, here's the deal. You have Ric Flair. Is he a wrestler? Is he just whatever? You have this all going on. Well, Ted Turner being part of, being the head of Team NWO, the agreement was he would be out of power. So next Raw, Vince is talking to Turner in the ring. You'll cut in right at that. They have their entrances. Vince close, brings out Ted Turner, and then you have I'm a reasonable man. It's like, well, Ted, I'm a reasonable man. Bet's a bet. So if you want to stay in my company in a position of power, whatever, below me, then you have to join a pretty exclusive club. You're going to be the first ever member of, unfortunately, yes, we're going to go with this still, the Vince McMahon Kiss My Ass Club. Yes, Regal was the first member of that right after Survivor Series 2001. This is going to be Ted Turner. Ted categorically refused. Vince said, only way, Ted. It's the only way. Ted refused. So Vince, of course, doing the "you're fired," I'm not even going to try to do a Vince impression, fires Ted. Ted leaves with his head held down. And then Bischoff is like, it's going to come down in just a minute. Vince is like, hey, now that I'm in charge, Bischoff's music hits. Now, hey, Vince. Just because we called a truce, and I'm reading from a script here because I wrote it down, doesn't mean I forget. WCW beat your team, and therefore you haven't beaten me yet, so I'm still in charge. So I make the decisions. Ted looks hopeful. Vince turns to Ted, or not Vince, but Eric turns to Ted on the stage and says, so Ted, you remember 1999, specifically September 10th, 1999, to be exact? Remember that? The day that you had Harvey Schiller call me in his office and say, you need to go home. The day you fired me. Well, guess what, Ted? I remember that day. So you're fired. And Ted leaves.
Pepperidge Farms remembers.
You really need to be louder with that. Pepperidge Farms does remember. But basically the idea here is that Bischoff, rewriting here, bringing up history and everything. Ted Turner leaves. NWO is still around, but we will start to dissolve the whole NWO thing as a whole, only for this reason. It served its purpose. They really aren't going to be taking over anymore. Yes, you had Hogan, Hall, Nash, Savage, and then Triple H join a couple months prior. The whole point of this is you got enough people over where they can all be a faction, so they could all be the NWO, but they're not going to be running total roughshod, since they don't have Ted Turner backing them anymore. Bischoff then says to Vince, and I gotta find out what script I got, because I numbered these pages, thankfully, otherwise I'd be lost. So, Vince, you want your company back? Well, then why don't we do it on the grand stage? And no, we're not waiting for WrestleMania, because that's not a grand stage. That's pennies compared to mine, which is Starrcade. Bringing back Starrcade. You gotta bring back a whole bunch of WCW events while this invasion angle is going on. And then, and Vince copied Starrcade for WrestleMania. So, Vince agrees. They make some matches, and over the course of, Raw and SmackDown, and occasionally they switch from Nitro to Raw, because that's the whole point of it. You gotta, play it up and everything that the invasion has happened. So, the agreement here is that there are two matches that were made for 50% ownership each between a WCW guy and WWF guy. Vince and Eric, 50% ownership of the company on the line. Austin and Goldberg, 50% ownership on the line, because you got Goldberg that accidentally speared Austin the pay-per-view before. And WWE title, Kane, Hogan, and Taker, because you got to include Kane somehow. You have Rock versus Sting, Triple H versus DDP, Savage versus Angle versus Flair, because you gotta throw Flair in there somehow. You have Flair as part of it. He gets to make a grand return Starrcade. Jericho versus Storm versus Booker T for the U.S. title, which Storm wins. He still has the U.S. title. And forgive me if I forget some of these titles. Like, I'm not going to cover all the cruiserweight and that kind of stuff and everything. But this is something where we're going to start including the women's title. But we have Hall and Nash versus the Hardys, WWE Tag Team Championships. Hall and Nash win that. Mike Awesome, Rhino, Kane, and Raven. Kane pulls double duty and is in a hardcore match. He's in a hardcore match before. And then if there's anything left of you, sure, you and your brother, The Undertaker, get a shot at Hogan if you're lucky. Kane's, of course, beat up and takes the fall in that match. Hogan retains the WWE Championship. So WCW guys still has it. Cruiserweight ladder match, you get 10 guys, whatever. Ray, Gregory Helms, Chavo Guerrero. I mean, why would you have Chavo Guerrero as part of it, but whatever. Prince IAK. I mean, you could include a bunch of guys. You could bring in a bunch of guys for one shot. Grand stage. Vince is raking money hand over fist with this whole invasion angle. So whatever. They bring back the women's championship, and not in the six-pack challenge like they did at Survivor Series 01, you know, in the original invasion angle. But you have Trish, who wins the championship here in a four-way. Or actually three-way. It's Trish, Lita, and Molly Holly. Now, I didn't include Jazz in on this because Jazz was made of glass and she couldn't really do anything. But you have Trish win. So, for the ownership of the company. Basically, before that, you have DDP beat Triple H. Okay, whatever. He gets a little measure of revenge for Triple H attacking him and everything. Savage, Angle, and Flair. Angle wins by pinning Flair. So, you have that. So, Savage does not take a beating. Or does not take another pinfall again. Mike Awesome wins the hardcore title, which I hope I covered. Austin beats Goldberg, so WWF has 50% ownership of the company. Eric beats Vince. Through shenanigans, run-ins, whatever. You could have a whole bunch of guys run in. Eric comes out on top. Kind of like how he did at Starrcade 98 against Ric Flair. So, you have that. So now, WCW has 50% ownership. WWF has 50% ownership. And you go with that. Next Raw. Since Austin and Bischoff won, 50-50. Vince and Eric are in the ring. Eric gloats about beating Vince. But Vince, who says, but my bald guy beat your bald guy. So now we are 50-50% partners. Now, originally, I didn't care a ton for Flair and Vince being 50-50 owners, even though it was a great moment with Ric Flair returning in Charlotte. But this works better because you get to have Vince and Eric still butting heads. And WCW has had ownership of it long enough, you know, from Invasion and everything on, so it makes sense. So, from here, now we own half the company. Each of us can call some shots. So Vince can call some shots. Eric, so fine. You call some shots, but WWE titles with WCW. You know, I mean, Hogan still, even though the NWO, part of WCW. Vince, not for long. At the Royal Rumble, it's a four-way. Vince can make a four-way. That sounds kind of wrong. Hogan versus Angle versus Austin versus Goldberg. Is that a match I could interest you in 2002? I would say so. And Eric's like, fine, Vince, but the Rumble will be a match where WCW destroys you and your company. Royal Rumble is set. Now, originally, the 2002 Royal Rumble had I think about 6 matches. It had a few short ones and everything. And it had Vince versus Flair and that kind of stuff. And you had some good matches. You had Jericho versus Rock, which wasn't bad. And a couple matches were okay. But this one is going to be raising the stakes and is going to make it to where really, okay, if they're going to put this kind of card together, what are they going to do for Mania? So now we go with this. Hogan versus Angle versus Austin versus Goldberg. Hogan will win that. Hogan wins that by by pinning Angle. Angle takes a loss. Goldberg ends up spearing everybody. Spears Angle last. Austin catches him with a stunner because he got speared first. Hogan makes the cover while Austin is down holding his neck and everything, and Goldberg's down, and Hogan hits the leg drop, 1, 2, 3. So that's your main event. Co-main event, actually, because the Royal Rumble is going to be the main event. You had Rock versus Lance Storm for the U.S. title. Rock is going to go for a secondary title. Jericho interferes, and so Jericho, joining his old Thrill Seekers partner, Lance Storm, from, Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Producers are running by the way, in case you wonder, they're on a bunch of catnip. But you go with that. So Storm's still the U.S. champion, and you go with that. DDP versus Sting versus Savage for the world title. DDP was the champion, I believe, still. And Sting manages to win the championship. So cool. Okay, Sting manages to win the championship. Awesome. This is great. Actually, not so fast. DDP had his foot on the rope. Sting thought he won. Randy Savage ends up hitting the sky elbow on DDP right after he hits a diamond cutter. DDP manages to rise back to his feet. Sting's arguing. Sting gets the diamond cutter, and as DDP's laying down, Randy Savage, 50-year-old Randy Savage, love Randy Savage. Actually, yeah, 50-year-old Randy Savage, sky elbow right on the DDP. 1, 2, 3, what up, Mach? We got the Randy Savage theme playing, and we got that. So Randy Savage has that. Trish versus Molly. Trish Stratus wins. Lita was in Trish's corner because they're kind of buddy-buddy. This is before their big feud. And then Molly Holly has a shocking person come and help her. After Trish is, celebrating everything, Molly attacks her. Lita tries to attack. And suddenly, Daphne, WCW's Daphne, Scream Queen, before the Fox show, by the way, attacks. And Molly Holly and her seem to have an uneasy alliance. But whatever. Even though Molly's the pure good girl, giving her somebody, edgy like Trish has with Lita, makes pretty good dynamic. Hall and Nash versus Kane and Taker, Brothers of Destruction. You have the WWE Tag Team Championships. Kane and Taker win. Nash does not tear a quad, believe it or not. Hall seems to be doing okay, but it's time for Hall and Nash to lose the titles. Outsiders have been good as champions. There we go. And then, that's the undercard. Main card, Rumble match. Talents like Big Show, Triple H, others have good showing, so is RVD, stuff like that, Dudley's. Austin wins. Austin ultimately wins. He pulls double duty. He wins, and he is the first ever and only 4-time Rumble champion. Not that I had a problem with Triple H winning originally. This makes more sense. Because Triple H isn't going to turn into a good guy. He's a bad guy. He should have come back as a bad guy. Or he should have turned a bad guy quicker once he came back. I mean, it was fine to Mania. But after he lost the title, they should have had him turn heel. And I only say that because Triple H is a better heel than he is a face. But you have the Rumble now. Austin is the champion and everything. Or Austin is Royal Rumble champion. And he's going to get to face. Who does he get to face? We're going to find out next as we build up to WrestleMania 18. But first, we stop at Super Brawl. But not before we cover the night right after the Rumble, which I will do in the next show. See you, folks.